I'm Liisa Ladouceur, and I want my Tomb TV.
Are you tuned in to me? Do you want your Tomb TV? 'Cause I wanna pay Tomb TV. Or some other bloody bollocks.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tomb TV, your home for weirdness on the web. I'm your host, Dragomir. No time for farting around, we gotta go to town. Yeah, we're gonna dig inside of our heads, find out exactly what makes us tick as horror fans. Let's face it, I love it, you love it, but why? It's time to find out with the creator and subject of the new documentary, Why Horror? It's Tal Zimmerman, right here, right now, on Tomb TV. Let's go.
Tal Zimmerman, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for joining me today.
Well, we're joined together at the hip now, and I've given you candy. I had to bribe him. to be on my show, but it worked.
Let me tell you something. I'm an actor. You never have to bribe me to turn a camera on me. This is the kind of stuff I live for.
Yeah, totally. Why horror?
Ask anybody why they watch horror, why horror is popular, why it's been popular since before we had language.
Yeah.
Cave art of monsters ripping people's eyes out. So the answer to the question is as diverse as the people you ask.
Is it more mentally sound to, watch fiction about monsters and blood and atrocity and gore, or to watch real-life news footage of actual people dying and getting killed?
I want my Tomb TV. Boom.
And I think that enables you to sort of relish it, to sort of enjoy it, or look into yourself and say, why am I afraid of this?
We all have anxiety, we all have fears, we all have things that keep us up at night. And when you go and you have a venue to scream and to laugh and to kind of get it all out of your system, or at the very least a venue to process these things, it's a very cathartic experience.
I was just going to say, it's a cathartic thing, and it's probably the same reason we ride roller coasters,
It's similar.
Yeah.
Roller coasters are physical.
Yeah.
Like I say, you never go home from a roller coaster being afraid of a roller coaster jumping out of you in a bush. But a horror movie will do that to you. A horror movie will give you those concepts to chew on, and you take that away. Whereas a roller coaster, when you get off the ride, you're done.
Yeah.
And so it's similar in that it brings you adrenaline and it brings you close to an experience that you don't have in your everyday life. But it doesn't really last past that moment.
It ends when the ride ends.
It ends when the ride ends.
You don't take a piece of it with you, as you do with horror movies.
That's right.
Such.
And though the ride ends with horror, you still go home thinking, wait a minute.
The ride just began, really.
Ride's just beginning, that's right.
So you've been all over the world. Where have you been, and who have you talked to for Why Horror?
Well, we went down to Mexico. We took part in the Dia de los Muertos. The idea that we live in a culture in North America that is sort of afraid of death, that doesn't like to broach the subject very much. If you look at all the cosmetic surgery and the fitness things that are out there, and lose weight in 2 weeks and 3 weeks and do this, and it feels like an effort to sort of mask death. We don't like aging. We try to hide that. We don't like the natural processes of our body, and we try to hide them too. In Mexico, they have a day called the Day of the Dead. It's actually several days, and death isn't fear-based there. It's just a natural part of life. So we went down to Mexico to look at that. We went to Japan because the ghost girl, that's in all the Grudge movies, and that character has been a part of their tradition for centuries, and only recently has it invaded our screens and our culture, and that's the kind of like the kind of things that we're following. Smiling for a picture. We went to London to look at vintage works of art by William Hogarth, who did these incredibly violent and disturbing images in the early 19th century. What was their function? And then who would look at that? And what were they thinking when they looked at that? We looked at Gothic literature. The early 19th century, between the advent of Gothic literature and the fact that horror art was moving away from the church, was moving away from religious themes into contemporary themes. This is a very important sort of time in the history of horror because, again, it's not so much about a moral instruction, but more about a thrill. We read it and the hair of our neck stands up, you know, like it's not about the kind of things that you would read in the Bible. It's more about just thrill for thrill's sake.
Thank you so much, Tal Zimmerman, for joining us today on Tomb TV.
Tomb.
Why horror? Why the fuck not?
Exactly. And I want my Tomb TV.
You're gonna take it like that.
Well, thanks for tuning into Tomb TV, everybody. I've been your host, Tomb Dragomir. I hope we learned something today. Thanks to Tal Zimmerman for stopping by. Be sure to visit Bandcamp for my salacious cut from Attack of the Mutants, a monstrous tribute to Impaler.
I'm a psycho basher.
You can get the full thing on iTunes as well. Lots of good tunes on there. Check it out. Oh yes, and be sure to subscribe. Be sure to subscribe to YouTube/Tomb for more Tomb TV coming soon. Lots of big fun stuff, so stay tuned. Until we meet again, my evil little friends. Adios.